Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back. So I want to talk about Cold Water here. This is Andrew Lincoln's new series here that is going to be premiering, I guess, in I don't know how many days, but it's supposed to be this fall. So it could be next month or maybe it's October. I'm not entirely sure. I honestly hope that it premieres like at some point after The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, because I think it would just be a lot easier to review because I do want to review every single episode. It's going to be, I guess we'll get into the details of the show and everything. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all of my content like this. I am going to be covering this show quite a bit. Like, I don't always cover everything that Andrew Lincoln does, obviously, but the reason why I really like this show is because the role that he's playing here is very similar to Rick Grimes, and it's a thriller, and there's like drama and all of that. So I think that it's going to be a lot of fun to actually watch this show. I think that, I did see like there was like a promo for the show, or at least a trailer, and so at some point I'll talk about that, and I'll get into like the actual story of everything here. We'll break down like what we have here, and yeah, we'll have to see what this show ends up being. But yeah, so I guess let's get into this. So as I was saying, this show is going to be premiering at some point this fall. It seems like it might be maybe later on this month or next month. Like, there's no actual release date yet. They just keep saying fall or autumn. So I think that, obviously in the next like 2 months, it's likely going to be premiering. And I don't know if we're going to find out later this month. I imagine because we have, some official images here for the show that I think we are going to get a trailer and a bunch of stuff soon. And so obviously I will break all of that down. And it looks really interesting. I will say, I think this story here is going to be something that I think if you're an Andrew Lincoln fan and you like the way that he does like these very dramatic roles like this, where the character is very like, I almost want to say pre-apocalyptic, right? Where it's just like normal life or whatever, and then a lot of crazy stuff happens, and then it's just like a drama, and it's like, what is happening, right? So I think that aspect to it is what I'm really interested in here, is like, I don't know if there's going to be a death or something that happens here, and then, he has to keep it a secret or whatever, and there's all of this like drama there or whatever. But I think that, he does roles like this very, very well, and I can just see this story being really exciting. So that's why I really want to talk about this show. And so we see this first shot here of Andrew Lincoln playing a character named John. And so the story here is John basically, like, him and his family go to, I believe, it's a place in Scotland, I believe. And yeah, he ends up meeting somebody there, and he's friends with him. And then his wife is just like, oh, I don't know, there's something off about that guy. And I guess there is something that ends up being off with him, at least based off of these images here. There's actually something that seems to happen here. And I imagine that maybe there's, a death that happens or something, in this character is maybe responsible or knows something. And so Andrew Lincoln's character John is just like, yeah, I don't know what to do now. And so it looks like they're just a happy family. We have this one shot here, and it looks like, yeah, they're just, they move into this place here, and they're going to start this new life. And I imagine this is going to be the first episode here. He moves here with his family, everything's all good and happy, and then probably something with a cliffhanger at the very end of the very first episode, right? And we have a shot here where we do see the neighbor here. I don't know for sure if the neighbor's name is Tommy. I believe so, just based off of the casting list here. And so I do believe that Tommy is the neighbor that John's wife is worried about. And so he does actually have a weapon. And so, maybe he does witness something. He does seem very concerned. Like, I don't know if this is when they first meet or what's happening here. We do have a shot here of Andrew Lincoln and, or I guess his name is John in the show, but John and Tommy, and there's something that happens here. It looks like John's very, very stressed out and has obviously learned something here, and Tommy is likely, telling him to sort of keep it a secret or whatever. And that's kind of what I'm getting from this here, is it's not necessarily going to be like a murder mystery, but like a murder drama, I guess, where it's like, he knows something here, and does he say anything? And maybe he can't because of whatever reason. Maybe he ends up kind of responsible or something like that, right? Like, maybe just something happens there where it's like, okay, he really can't say anything because he's going to mess up a lot of stuff here for his family. And so there's just a lot of, stress that sort of comes with that. Now, like I was saying, this series is going to be 6 episodes. And so, yeah, I think that this could honestly be a really great show here to watch. It's not like it's going to be like 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever seasons long. Like, this is a one series thing. It's 6 episodes, and yeah, we'll see, I guess, what this ends up being overall. But I do think that this story is going to be pretty good, I think, because, again, it's a very self-contained story where it's almost like I don't want to say a movie, but like that's kind of my thing about like limited series and why I do like them is like movies are, I almost want to say too short, but the pacing is very different. Whereas when you get a TV show where it's like 6 episodes, I mean, each episode's like 45 minutes. And so times that by 6, that's like 240 minutes. And so that ends up being what, 4 hours or something like that. So you get a lot more, content, and you can actually get into like these character stories here. And I do think that that's why Andrew Lincoln is honestly doing a lot of this stuff, is because with movies, it's very, very fast pacing. And I think that, I just think based off of the roles that he seems to be doing a lot, after The Walking Dead, or I guess he's still kind of a part of The Walking Dead, it's a lot of this dramatic stuff that he really likes, and I could tell just based off of The Ones Who Live and the story there, it's a lot of like personal character stuff, right? And I think that's why for the character, at least when Carl died, I do think that's why he ended up like going off the show, because I think for Rick, like the reason why he was on the show was because, his motivation was Carl. And I think because Carl was killed off the show, it was like, well, what happens next? And I know he has Judith and RJ, but I think for Andrew Lincoln, he's looking back to like the very first season, right? When Chandler Riggs was there, like everyone was there, and like he always talks about the very first episode, Days Gone By, being like his favorite episode. So I think he really looks back to that first season and that first episode and sees, Rick's story as that, and just really always tries to like do stories like that where it's evolving the character from that point there, and the character always is the same person he was, I guess, in season 1, or at least that's what you would expect, right? And so I think that's one of those things where when it comes to doing another series here with Rick Grimes, I think we're going to have to see another story like this where it's not just like something that happens during All Out War. I know that when you look at Rick Grimes throughout all 8 seasons of The Walking Dead, even 9 seasons, there was always like an arc that he was on, but there has to be something there where I do think Andrew Lincoln would be really excited to actually do the role. And I think, honestly, his relationship with Judith and RJ would be one thing, because they already focused a lot on, Rick and Michonne, so I don't think they're going to do anything more like that in another series. I think they would probably have, I guess Rick's story really focused on his relationship with his kids, and I guess there would be drama and stuff that would happen, this and that, and obviously reuniting with other characters and just seeing how all that works here. So that's, I think, for Scott Gimple, something that obviously he has to work out. I think that there has to be that survival element as well. The story needs to be good where there's like drama there. And I don't know, maybe they could do something there, like with the Commonwealth. Like that's the thing. Could they do something with the Commonwealth? Because yes, the Commonwealth was a community, or I guess storyline, or just whatever, right, in the very final season, and I guess kind of in season 10 a little bit, at least in the finale, or episode 16 anyways. But I just think, or actually I think that one of the bonus episodes had the Commonwealth, right? I believe so, I can't even remember, but I wonder if you could actually do a story there, like where Rick, again, I don't know if he's at the Commonwealth, like we don't know, and that's one of those things where the ending of The Ones Who Live was meant to be more open-ended, because now they're able to do whatever they want. Like, they really ended that story in a way where it's like, we don't know where Rick is, and depending on where Gimple wants to go with the story next, it's he can really go anywhere. Like, maybe they left the Commonwealth, and a lot of that honestly could be because maybe they don't want to get all the actors to come back, kind of thing, and it's a lot to pay everybody to come back, and so you just end up having, Rick, Michonne, Judith, and RJ. But I think doing a story at the Commonwealth could work really well. Like, it would be kind of cool to see Rick there, Commonwealth soldiers, and maybe they're not necessarily a part of the story, but just to have them around, and like, maybe you just see soldiers walking by, it just really builds up the world, and it keeps the story, everything connected, kind of thing. Like, you want to see stuff like that, right? Not have everything so disconnected, like how the spinoffs have kind of been so far. Well, actually, I will say, I think The Walking Dead Dead City is a lot more disconnected than The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. I do think that The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon is a little bit more connected to The Walking Dead, because, Laurent and Ash actually went back to the Commonwealth, or they went there. They haven't been there yet. There's references to Judith and other characters, like, you know what I mean? So there's those connections there where it feels like it's all a part of the same story. I think that would be cool for Rick's, story in another series, is make those connections and have that dramatic storytelling here. I think with, you could do the Commonwealth storyline. It wouldn't necessarily be with like anybody who's like a leader of the Commonwealth, or anything like that, but maybe there's some issues with the Commonwealth and the CRM, and I don't know, I don't even know if you want to get into a lot of that. Honestly, that's my whole thing when it comes to what they could do next with Rick, is I think based off of Coldwater here and a lot of the roles that Andrew Lincoln does take, it has to be more dramatic and very much like simplistic survival horror, as Andrew Lincoln said like last year, right? So I really do think it's going to be one of those things where maybe we'll see stuff, you know, in the very first episode, but afterwards it's going to be somewhere else. And I think that's where, I mean, honestly, the one thing that he mentioned is like bringing everything back to just like bare bones, right? And having everything very, you know, just surviving, and like you have nothing. And it's like, how do you survive, right? And that's the one thing with Rick Grimes right now, is like he knows how to survive. So you have to put him in situations where it's very, very difficult. And like, what do you do, right? And obviously with the CRM, that was that, like he could not leave. Like it was so intense there, he couldn't go at all. So I think you have to come up with a storyline like that. I think that's what Gimple has to do. And I think Andrew Lincoln has to be, you know, happy with that, where it's like, yeah, this will be very, very cool, because they did the whole story with Michonne and his family and all that happy stuff and everything. And I think going forward, based off of what Andrew Lincoln said, he wants more of that, like, again, simplistic survival horror, which is what he said last year. So yeah, I guess to go back to, you know, Coldwater, I think that Andrew Lincoln in this role is going to be really great. I'm really excited for the story. I think a lot of people are going to be watching this show because it's Andrew Lincoln, and it's awesome seeing him in these roles, right? And I'm still so surprised that he's not like in movies or like in other, you know, bigger projects, because it's like, why not? Right? Like he's such a great actor. I don't get it. I really do not get it at all. But it is what it is. You know, I think that him as Rick Grimes is one of like the best roles, really. I feel like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you really look at what he's done as Rick Grimes and the crazy amounts of just how intense the story was sometimes, like, I just don't get why he's not in like bigger roles and all of that, because I mean, he was so amazing as Rick Grimes. Like, yeah, I don't know, but I'm really excited about this show. I can't wait for a trailer to come out. I can't wait to actually review you know, this show and talk about the storyline and the very specifics about the story overall, because we don't really know too much besides him and his family. You know, I guess they go to this Scottish town and they start a new life there, but then there's drama here because of I guess next door neighbor that causes a bunch of problems, and it seems like it's kind of a murder drama, but I'm assuming that right now. We'll have to wait and see. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. I will be talking about the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Behind the Dead new teaser, so stay tuned for that. We actually got one today. And yes, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.